just give you a little double whammy.
Yeah, yeah, it takes them away from me at the same time, visitor's time.
Sure. Oh, that does. Oh, it does. Oh, goodness.
Okay. So we're gonna, there we go.
When Chad's not here, they don't give us a warning.
I don't know.
And we look up and something's going on.
That's fine.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the April 18th Muscatine City Council meeting. Cinda, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Spread,
Present.
Harvey,
Present.
Rockert,
Present.
Saucedo,
Present.
Brackett,
Present.
Fitzgerald,
Present.
Malcolm,
Present.
7 present, 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. We are going to start tonight with a presentation from Brenda and Chris on the Riverfront Thursday night events. If you don't mind, please pull in the microphone up so everybody at home can hear you. And each of you, if you would say your name and address.
Thank you for listening to us tonight. I am Chris Bohr. My address is 2247 Bentwood Drive, Muscatine.
Hi, I'm Brenda Christensen. My address is 2755 Oak Drive, Muscatine.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So we are proposing an event on the riverfront, and we would like to have it every fourth Thursday of each month in the summer, June, July, August, and September. We want to have live music, beer and wine tent, food trucks, family entertainment in the grassy area down where that berm is. I don't know where that section is.
Past the basketball court.
Past the basketball court.
The basketball courts.
Right.
Yep. Some of our other events that we are planning are family-focused events. We'd like to have I say red brick building still, but I know that's not the correct name. But we'd like to offer spaces up to the library, to the museum to come in and do kids' activities. We would have blow-up slides and that kind of thing in the parking lot in front of the red brick building for kids' activities. We're being very careful about our food vendors to make sure that we provide a variety, and we are limiting only 6. We don't want everybody down there. We'd like the people that do come down to be able to make a little bit of money, and by limiting it, we feel that we can cover both of those things.
And the time frame would be 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So as that event finishes, we hope that they would go on downtown and maybe have dinner and have another drink, or, and support the local businesses downtown. And we picked the fourth Thursday of the month so the city council could attend.
We started out with the 3rd and did change that, so we want to see all of you down there. And what we would mostly want to promote, and where a lot of our proceeds would go would be for the next event, of course, after the first one. And then we would like to start a fund in our Keep Muscatine Beautiful fund that once you get down the path of the amphitheater, we would like to be the first to make a donation. So that's what our plans for the proceeds are.
Okay.
Because the event would be free to the
Yeah.
public.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Yes.
so the most critical piece of this, other than Brendan and Christina's hard work, is this will require a change in the ordinance.
Because of the
And,
alcohol.
If the plan calls for an amphitheater in that location, the plan was adopted by the city council, and we think it makes sense to start that process at the next meeting, if council concurs, and to extend the beer and wine, it's only beer and wine, to just shy of the memorial, so that it encompasses the entire sidewalk for that area because once we have the amphitheater in place, we'll need to do that anyways. So, and their event, while it seems like a great public event to me, I'm looking forward to it, but it also helps the funding, future funding of that amphitheater and location. So it would require a code change. So I just want to make it clear that there would need to be a majority of council in order for this to move forward in this location. Otherwise, they'd have to choose a different location.
So it is on the consent agenda tonight. So if we leave it in the consent agenda and approve the consent agenda, we will have to do that with the understanding that we will have to do an ordinance change next month.
Correct.
Did any council have any questions? Go ahead,
Greg, when,
Harvey.
if they start in June, can we have that ordinance changed by then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go
Your
ahead.
Honor, Chris and Brenda, good to see you. I have a couple questions. Your seed money, where is that coming from?
So Keep Muscatine Beautiful was the organization that had Healthy Living Fest, if any of you guys remembered. It was we had like 3 years in a row. We hadn't done it for the last couple of years because of the construction on the riverfront. So we have some seed money from that. And then also my employer grants me money for volunteering. So all my volunteer money has gone into that account.
Okay.
So we have a really big kitty to get started with.
Oh, good. So I assume you're going to be paying the bands and the off-duty police officers for security. How are you going to be charging a percentage of sales from the vendors, or how is that going to work?
Right now, we're planning on a $75 fee for the vendors. We don't really want to saddle them with a huge fee, but we want to make sure that we know who's coming in and doing it. I think most of our proceeds, we're thinking we're going to make off of beer and wine sales.
And we are planning to do that similar to what Great River Days did. We
Okay.
will set up a couple, or Quarterback Club, yeah. We will set up a couple tents and find volunteer groups to come in and help us serve the alcohol, or the beer and wine. We had talked about having, like, the brew or a Boonies come down and do it, but as we thought more about it, that is going to be probably the way that we make the biggest percent of our money from this event, since we want to offer it all for free. So we decided if we backed up and had the tents ourselves, that we would have a better chance of making a larger sum of money that we could in the future donate.
And be able to sustain the event.
Okay, so you do have a liquor license of
We
beer, wine
will. We were
permit?
waiting till tonight to make sure that we should move forward with this, and then I'll apply for it.
Okay, thank
So do
you.
you plan on putting big tents up then and having chairs for people, or is it going to be everybody bring their own?
It'll be a little bit of everybody bring your own, but we also have, Nick Gow has also offered to bring down picnic tables, but we'd like to make this a very much a fun, party-like atmosphere. And so we are going to purchase colorful Adirondack plastic chairs that we'll put all over the grass down there. We've talked about a couple other things to make it really fun. I think you saw the pictures in your packet that we included. A lot of yard games, some blow-up games, all sorts of things to just try and make it fun. And we found out in the last couple days that first weekend we want to do is the National Soccer Showcase down at the soccer field. So we're excited about all of that extra people in town that maybe we can draw into something to do in Muscatine.
And our plan is if the weather is bad, that it would just be canceled. We wouldn't try to move it around. We're going to advertise that if the weather's bad, it's stormy or whatnot, that we would just wait till the next
Go
month.
ahead, Councilman.
I hate to say it, but if it's windy, watch out for the bounce houses.
Yeah. And we've done enough events before that we do know that can be an issue.
Particularly if it's blowing toward the river.
Yeah.
Towards the river, not good.
We don't want to lose any kids, you're right.
I think it's a good deal.
Well, we really thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
For having us, yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move along with the agenda for the evening. Is there anybody here who would like to speak about something that's not currently on tonight's agenda? Hearing nothing, we're going to move along with the consent agenda then. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes items 6A and B, items 8A through I, items 9A, items 12A through C, and tonight's bills totaling $3,495,759.22.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Brackett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. We are going to move on down to number 7. We have 3 public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is on a proposed urban renewal plan amendment for the Consolidated Muscatine Urban Renewal Area. All of the information was attached to the agenda online. Now is the time for the public to comment.
Move to
Hearing
close.
nothing, do I have a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Brackett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. Public hearing B is on the high-strength waste receiving station plans, specifications, form of contract, and cost estimates. Now is the time for the public to comment. Hearing nothing, motion to close.
Close.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Saucedo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion carries. And public hearing C. We have a public hearing tonight regarding the plan specifications, form of contract, and cost estimates for the proposed 2019 PCC Full Depth Patch Construction Project. Now is the time for the public to comment.
Move to
Do we
close.
have a motion to close? Councilman Saucedo, second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Spread. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. And now we are on 9. We have a proclamation tonight for National Day of Prayer. Whereas the 68th observance of the National Day of Prayer will be held on Thursday, May 2nd of 2019 with the theme, Pray for America, Love One Another, based on John 13:34, love one another just as I have loved you. And whereas a National Day of Prayer has been part of our national heritage since it was declared by the First Continental Congress in 1775 and the United States Congress in 1952 approved as a joint resolution, that the President shall set aside and proclaim a suitable day each year other than a Sunday as a National Day of Prayer, on which the people of the United States may turn to God in prayer and meditation in churches, in groups, and as individuals. And whereas the United States Congress in 1988, by Public Law 100-307 as amended, establishes an act to provide for setting aside the first Thursday in May as the date on which the National Day of Prayer is celebrated. And whereas leaders and citizens of our communities, cities, states, and nation are afforded the privilege of prayer with the joy of seeking divine guidance, strength, protection, and comfort from Almighty God. And whereas recognizing the love of God, we, citizens of Muscatine, treasure the freedom to gather in prayer, exercising reliance on God's power in the face of present challenges and threats, asking for His blessing on individuals of our city. And now, therefore, I, Diana Broderson, Mayor of Muscatine, do hereby proclaim May 2nd, 2019, as a day of prayer throughout the city of Muscatine, and I commend this observance to all of our citizens. And our representative was not able to be here tonight, so I will see to it that this gets to them. We are going to continue with tonight's agenda, and we are moving down to 11A. We have the second and final reading of an ordinance amending Title II, Boards and Commissions to include Chapter 14, Public Art Advisory Commission. The City Council's consideration is for the second and final reading of an ordinance amending this Title II, Boards and Commissions to include Chapter 14, Public Art Advisory Commission. Staff is requesting that City Council waive the third reading and approve the ordinance on second and final reading. Is there a motion to waive the statutory rule requiring said ordinance to be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to pass?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilman Saucedo to waive the statutory rule. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
I've got a comment first.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't ask for discussion. Go ahead.
As I stated last time that we did this, although I'm very much in favor of this passing, I am not in favor of waiving any readings at any time for any of these. So that's,
Councilman
I'd like
Malcolm?
to ask staff, is there a reason why we're waiving is, I'm like Kelsey, I'm in favor of it, I'm just curious why we're breaking protocol.
I wouldn't call it breaking protocol. I think it's been our general practice to approve most things on second and final reading. And occasionally, there are things that are of more import that we've taken the time to do the 3 readings, but I would say it's our common practice to waive an act on the second and final reading over the years.
Okay. Well, I'm just curious, okay. That's all, Your Honor, thank you.
So the statutory rule requires the ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting. This is only the first one. So it's not 3, it's 2.
2
So,
meetings.
so you're, if I hear you right, Councilman Malcolm, you're asking, is there a reason it needs to be hurried?
3 times. as
Right.
opposed- And this is the second time we're,
the reason it has to be read multiple times is because it's an ordinance change, correct?
Oh, yes.
Yes, that's, yeah. And I'm just standing on my opinion that when we're doing something that is supposed to have a certain number of readings to the public, you know, my statement is nothing to do with the topic, but the procedure, so,
All ordinances require 3 readings.
great.
The city council can waive 2 of those readings. And I agree or disagree, it's generally been our practice to act on the second reading. Occasionally, we bring something forward on first reading. I'll probably ask council to act on this last item.
I
so that we,
understand.
at the first reading. But generally, when there has been an occasion when we've done, when it's been, for the code change to the code book, made sure we've gone through all 3 readings, because it's important to make sure that we get all that information out there. But most of these changes are very minor. So,
I understand. It's just, for me, it's just a principal item.
I completely understand.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Even though I made the motion, I'm going to vote nay because I agree. I don't think we ought to waive readings.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Nay.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
I'm going to go aye.
The motion carries. So now, since that has been waived, we will ask for a motion to adopt the ordinance on this second and final reading and to direct for its publication as required by law.
So
Do I have a motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Spread with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion?
I will happily vote for this one.
Just,
Council, go ahead.
I just had a question. When are we gonna start being able to see some of these candidates? Or are they already in process? Is Melanie here?
We'll want to get a nominating committee meeting scheduled.
Because it says 5 members to be appointed, 2 full consecutive arc from the commission.
Yeah, so we'll go through the usual process with the nominating committee. I've worked with an informally organized group of 6 to 7 Muscatine residents, and I know 2 of them are interested in putting in their application to be considered by the nominating committee. I've had contact with a few people here and there who are also interested, so we're in the process of spreading out the information for nominating. We're waiting to get through this reading before we, really do a bigger push, but our plan was to have people in place for July 1st. So I don't know when the nominating committee's meeting for the other boards and commissions, but I don't know that it needs to be a separate meeting just for this.
We only meet
Commission.
when we have a reason to meet. So I know Councilman Brackett's going to be out of town the 1st of June. So if you could, after this passes tonight, which I'm certain that it will, then if you want to encourage people to get those applications in so that we can have them in hand and
Yeah.
perhaps sometime like the second week in June.
Sure,
we can
sure.
meet,
I
and
think
that
that's
way you
very
can get up
manageable.
and going.
And we've had, a few conversations here and there. People know it's coming, and we're just, making sure it's official before we start sending in a whole bunch of nominees.
Thank you.
Great.
Hearing nothing else, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11B. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution to approve the April 2019 Urban Renewal Plan Amendment for the Muscatine Consolidated Urban Renewal Area. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Saucedo with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11C. Presented for City Council's consideration is the first reading of an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the Consolidated Muscatine Urban Renewal Area. This ordinance will establish the TIF district for the property at 216 Sycamore Street, owned by Hershey Property LLC. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Spread. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
And Councilwoman Brockert.
Aye.
This ordinance, the first reading of this ordinance is approved with all ayes. And 11D, presented for City Council's consideration is the first reading of an ordinance establishing refuse collection rate fees. The recently adopted city budget for FY 1920 includes an increase in the monthly rates for residential refuse collection services. The new rates will increase from $20.50 to $21 for regular residential customers and from $15.50 to $16 for senior customers. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Nancy, you know about what the annual intake from these raises might be? Probably not, huh?
We talked about it at budget, but
Yeah. I don't remember what the
Yeah.
number was.
Yeah, I didn't bring up that worksheet, but what we're trying to do is generate enough money to, every year the contract for the curbside recycling goes up, and which leaves less money for the rest of the cost in the refuse collection operation. And then we also have some needs to replace some of the refuse collection vehicles. So that's where was our basis for including that in the budget. And I have it downstairs,
Councilman
amount.
Saucedo?
but I don't have it up here.
Can you send me an email?
I sure can, yes.
Okay.
Nancy, on our outer cities, like Fruitland and, who else do we have out there? that we do outside of the community as far as Ripley's and things like that? Are those fee structures the same?
They're the same, yes. Fruitland is outside the city, and it's based on the number of residential units there. There's no senior discount for the Fruitland residents. It's all billed to the city of Fruitland,
Okay,
so they're not billed individually. Ripley's is now part of the city, but again, we bill the owner there who charges those fees back to the customer. For Ripley's, we use an average of the regular and the senior because there's a mix of residents out there. So we use, the in-between, it was 75 or $17.50 when it was $15 and $20 rate. So it was halfway in between, just to use an average rate.
okay. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay.
Hearing nothing else, Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilman Malcolm?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Brackett.
Aye.
The motion carries. 11E, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contract, cost estimates, and establishing a bid opening date of May 10th of 2019 for the high-strength waste receiving station. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye. Sorry.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes.
Breathing.
11F, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the plans, specifications, form of contracts, and setting a date for receipt of bids for May 9th of 2019. Is there a motion, and this is for the full depth patch construction project that we have talked about in public hearing C. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion?
Did we change this from the budget? I thought we had closer to $1 million. Or was that just last year's?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The dollar amount that's in there, in that contract form, is the budget that was set up for this full depth patching. About $1 million, I think, if I remember the numbers right, it includes the alley asphalt overlay work and a few other things, so,
Okay, so we moved that over.
yep.
And just to be clear on this budget approval is the blinking lights for traffic. I've continued to get calls for that recently, but I just want to make sure we're clear that that is something that will be implemented in July's start of work.
It's in there.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing nothing else, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Saucedo.
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11G. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution setting a date for a public hearing on May 2nd of 2019 and for consideration of approval of a development agreement with Hershey Property LLC and Bush Development LLC, including annual appropriation tax increment payments. The city proposes to enter into an agreement with Bush Development and Hershey Property in connection with the redevelopment of the former Hershey building into a mixed-use building, including multi-residential units and commercial retail space. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Harvey with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Spread?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
And Councilman Salcedo.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11H, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution to adopt the non-union pay plan for fiscal year 1920. This pay plan includes change of pay grades for police supervisors and to reflect the budgeted 2.25% cost of living adjustments. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Salcedo with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Salcedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11I, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution to adopt the seasonal pay plan for fiscal year 1920. Added to this pay plan is a column labeled Increase with Administrative Approval Not to Exceed Non-Union COLA Cost of Living Adjustment. This request is to allow for pay adjustment as warranted for long-term key seasonal personnel. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Who said that?
Both of us.
Councilman Spread?
There was three.
Councilwoman Brockert, will you
Yes.
second?
Yes.
And is there any discussion? Hearing,
I-
oh, go ahead.
So is key seasonal, is that just people that have come over the years? Because it's basically temporary people, or how is that? I mean, there's summer help. So is it, hey, they were here 2 summers ago, so then they are allowed, or how does that,
We have a few seasonal employees. The current seasonal pay plan, I think, has 4 or 5 steps in it. I can't remember for sure. And at that point, as the plan is currently written, they top out at that pay grade. We have a few seasonal employees who have been with us in excess of 20 years who are really integral parts of the park system. And
that would be key?
yeah, they have a lot of organizational knowledge and history and knowledge of the facilities that they work in. And we wanted to be able to recognize that tenure for those folks.
Certainly.
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That explains it.
Councilman Spread, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Salcedo?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Councilman Malcolm.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're on 11J, presented for City Council's consideration as a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order to Brad Deary McQuoketa Ford in the amount of $29,104.24 for the purchase of a new truck chassis. 4 bids were received, and the low bid was from Brad Deary McQuoketa Ford. The budgeted amount for this item is $33,000. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11K, presented for City Council's consideration as a request to proceed with the airport hangar project and to approve addendum number 1 to the professional services agreement with Bolton and Mink for design, bidding, and construction services for new hangars at the airport. The local share of project costs is proposed to be included in the May 2020 bond issue. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Brackett. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11L, we have a request to approve a proposal from CETA Consulting regarding the performance review process for the city administrator. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilman Malcolm. Is there any discussion?
Yes, and
Typically, I'm supportive of everything that we do in the budget process. In this case, I just struggle to think that it's necessary to spend $18,500 to do this, so I'll be a no vote.
I wanted to ask if, I know CETA Consultant is the one that we have looked at and that is charging this fee. Have we looked at other companies as well? I mean, why did we pick them?
There was two firms, it's my understanding, that were provided to council at that time, and then subsequently provided to me. The other one ranged between 20 and 25,000.
So this was the cheaper of the
Cheaper
two?
of the two.
Can this format that we're using potentially be used for other staff members as well? Of feedback sessions?
Like department heads?
I'm sure the product that, you're talking about the product we receive?
So ultimately, let's say if it says, hey, there's 25 items that need, these questions answered, and out of those 25, maybe 5 of them give you constructive feedback. The generic questions, could they be utilized as a finished product to be utilized as feedback sessions for other department heads through their staff?
I see no reason why they couldn't, certainly.
Okay.
No copyright infringement or any agreement in any way, shape, or
We'd be
form.
purchasing them.
We're purchasing the product.
I mean, ultimately, if it's a product that we utilize in that aspect of it, then I would think that it may be useful as far as a tool that you would be able to utilize with the departments as well too, versus maybe what's in place now that may give you better results.
There may very well be. I have not gone through this process before, specifically for city administrators. So.
Okay.
Hearing no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Who else said nay? Councilman Fitzgerald? We have 5 ayes, 2 nays. The request is approved. We're on 11M. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a supplemental agreement in the amount of $6,500 from Stanley Consultants to reduce the scope of the high-strength waste receiving project and to proceed with the rebidding project. Is there a motion to approve this request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilwoman Brockert with a second by Councilman Harvey. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. We're on 11N. We have a resolution opposing House File 773, formerly House File 165, and Senate File SSB 1260, property tax reform bills under consideration in the Iowa legislature. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Councilman Brackett with a second by Councilwoman Brockert. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to state that I very much hope our local legislators take this into account. I've been reviewing this, and although there's a lot of wording that goes around about what it might be, I think it could severely hamstring us here at the city level. And, sorry, I turned away from the mic, that it could hamstring us here at the city level in growth and other areas. So that's my statement on that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've been reading this, and of course, I've been reading the information attributable to the bill. The reality is today, the state code already restricts how much we can levy in most cases. And quite honestly, we're bumping up against some of those, or most of those limits. I see this as a change in method, but not necessarily an infringement of home rule, because we already live with that environment. I'm wondering if we're reacting to a change in process when in fact it may or may not be. I'm not convinced it's going to be a negative, is what I'm saying. So,
Your Honor.
Yes.
I was looking for Nancy. Nancy had done some quick calculations based on a question that we had received, and if I recall correctly, our cash expenditure increases on an annual basis averaged, I'm going to let Nancy step in and take it so I don't misspeak.
And since this 2% is on tax revenue, it's not on tax rate or anything. I went back for the last 10 years and just compared tax revenues in each of those years and the percentage change. And the bill would exempt debt service, but I didn't go through the effort to back out certain levies. I just did total tax dollars levied. And our percent increases, except for the 2 years that there was the rollback of the commercial and industrial property, that those years, our tax revenues didn't go up much, if any, for those 2 years. And then other years, there was what I call an anomaly year. Valuations went up over 5%, and our tax revenues went up over 5%. And that year, particularly FY 17, that's when City Council was able to add firefighters. The need was there other years, but with that increase, we were able to add 4 firefighters. So we did increase it by that amount, but there was a definite need to do so. And then the other 7 years basically have ranged from 2.11% to 3.03. Those are more normal years, but even the low 2.11 is over the 2% in the proposed legislation. And procedurally, I'm not sure how it would work, but to decide in time to be able to have a referendum would probably be before council's done discussing the budget. But if every year we've been already over the 2%, it seems like another hoop to step through. And whether there would be people calling for a referendum, that we wouldn't know that.
And in our discussions, it appeared that we would have to, or the council would have to actually call for that referendum before we even made our recommended budget presentation to the council, when you backdated those dates?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
and without digging into the particulars, we don't get taxable valuations till right around the first of the year. And then until we give out the proposed budget to council, towards the end of the month on that Thursday night, that's when we crunch the numbers. But it's like we would need to know before that we would be going over the 2%. So it
just doesn't make a whole lot of sense procedurally. And then the other piece that I find, well, 2 pieces that I find a bit disturbing is I really find this as another attack on home rule, because I really believe the council is where the decision-making should lie with the local budget. You know best what is in the best interest of the community, and this appears to be another attack on home rule. And one of the explanations or rationale that I've consistently seen coming out from legislators is that neither staff nor council nor the mayor takes the time to consider or weigh the increase in assessed or taxable value. We ignore that and factor in the tax rate without even taking a look at the increase that we received that particular year. And that is absolutely not the case. Right. We very methodically go through the budget, and we point out specifically what the increase was on that annual year, what the taxable increase was, what the what's the other word I'm looking for? Not just taxable.
Assessed.
But the assessed value. And we do so very publicly and very directly, going through the budget and factor those increases in for consideration before the city council. So we do not ignore increases in assessed value, and they often come in handy because our costs go up every year, just like everybody else's business, home, utilities. Costs go up on an annual basis. tonight, council approved the non-union pay plan, previously approved the police and fire and blue-white contracts. We know we're going to have cost increases on an annual basis. Utility costs go up on an annual basis. Pavement costs go up on an annual basis. I think this body is, in my opinion, is in the best position to make the best decisions for Muscatine and for each city.
I would agree with Greg on that, and I would add too that, you know, if this bill does not effectively change anything, then all it's doing is confusing everything, and there's no reason to add this in to the mix if there's already, you know, a state law about 2%. But it's just, to me, it looks like the moving towards some other kind of money grab like the fireworks were. I mean, I know it's not in this, but I suspect that comes next. So.
Councilman Harvey?
Greg, I think you basically answered my question. I was going to ask, do you have any insight what the driving force for this legislation was?
Well, I don't have any insight, and that's largely because cities were not, to my knowledge, cities were not asked for input into this legislation. I don't know of any cities that were asked, and there may very well be, but I'm not aware of any cities. We were certainly not asked for input into this legislation, which I find a bit disturbing when it certainly impacts communities. So I don't understand why. I wish I had insight, and I would have had that insight. We would have had that insight if we were involved earlier in the process.
Do you have any idea, was this process started kind of under the radar and then all of a sudden it popped up?
I was not aware that it was going to pop up. I bet that's about all I can say.
And other mayors I've talked to didn't have any idea either and weren't consulted.
I had a gentleman I used to work for that he made the comment that I hadn't thought of before he made the comment, that he said every level of government thinks that the level of government below them isn't wise enough to handle their own business. And so that starts at the federal level and works its way down to cities. Yeah. Everybody thinks they know better how to do their business than they do.
And I would have to agree with Greg. In my tenure on the council, I think in your budget message, you've done an outstanding job of identifying the increases attributable to the changes in assessed valuation. And you're right, we were able to hire some firefighters. I get all of that. I can only suspect what the motives are for the legislation. My initial view is it's a rule change and may or may not be all that consequential, but based on what I'm hearing now, I think I'd support this, so.
Any other comments? Thank you, Nancy. Hearing nothing, Councilman Malcolm, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Councilman Brackett?
Aye.
Councilman Saucedo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Aye.
Councilman Harvey?
Aye.
And Councilman Spread.
Aye.
This resolution is adopted with all ayes. We're down to communications. Councilman Harvey, do you have anything tonight?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilman Spread.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilman Fitzgerald.
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Councilman Malcolm.
Not tonight, Your Honor, thank you.
Councilwoman Brockert.
Oh, yes. I had a meeting Monday night with Riverbend neighbors, and they had some questions. The first one was, when will the trees on Hauser Hill be picked up, and who will do that?
Mayor, Council, Nadine, thanks for this opportunity
You're welcome.
to get this out maybe a little bit more publicly than we have. Those trees were dropped to come in compliance with endangered species, federal rules and laws. And when the trail contract is let later this summer, then the contractor will pick the wood up and we'll take it down to the compost site and pile it down there. And then, and only then, would we really like people who want to use that as firewood go get it and get it there. We really do not want anybody trying to go get firewood there where it's along that street.
Right.
It's a really bad idea.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, and I have another one. Fifth and Mulberry.
Oh, that'd be
That's not you.
Fifth
That was
and-
against me.
Fifth and Mulberry.
I had a question on that, too.
I didn't change directions. Actually, I spoke with Councilmember Fitzgerald. The attorney has the most recent contract. I was supposed to hear last week. I have not heard again. And we spoke to bond counsel because as part of that, there is either a TIF grant or actually their preference would be to put it as a forgivable loan, not much difference, of, I believe, $70,000, not $75,000, as part of the procedure. I've made the contract changes. I noticed one issue tonight in speaking with Councilmember Fitzgerald, but other than that, their attorney has the agreement, and we'll have the forgivable loan for the council to act on, but certainly not until the agreement is signed. We continually encourage them to do so. We'd like to see this get done. The family is back now. It's my understanding. I believe they were down in Texas for an extended period for personal reasons, family reasons. But they are. My understanding is that they are back now.
For a while. They have a graduation to attend, too.
Okay, great.
They're leaving again.
So I think I continue to ask, and they have the latest version of the contract in their hand. I would encourage Mr. Johnson to respond as quickly as possible. And I would ask you to do the same.
The primary reason they were wondering was because of the continuation of the deterioration of the outside of the building.
We would all like to see that building secured, and certainly we have plenty of time between now and winter to get much done on that project if we can only get the contract approved and the grant approved.
Okay, thank you.
So I continue to press.
Did you have anything else?
No.
Councilman Salcedo.
Yeah, I have two items. One, the citywide cleanup is going to be next week, so please pay attention to the rules of what those are. They have changed slightly. The other item is the request for the May 9th in-depth session is the storm shelter requirements of Section 423 that I've had discussions with the school board and with our current staff in regards to that. So we will have a discussion with that, and staff is working with some items to try to address those things. And just want to make the public know that we are looking at that to come up with a resolution for the school board. That's all I have.
Councilman Brackett.
I didn't have anything until the first thing that we had tonight, and I just wanted to say thanks to the folks that are doing the Almost Friday Fest, because that sounds fun. So I
They've
look
been
forward.
working on it for a while. They brought it to CIAT.
Yeah, I look forward to that starting. So that's all I've got, though. Thank you.
Staff?
I don't think I have anything else to add tonight, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. I just had a few things. Our next Coffee with the Mayor is going to be a little bit different, April 27th, next Saturday, and we are going to be at DeBeats Bistro at 3 o'clock. So we'd love to have anybody join us. You can get a pop or an appetizer, and we'll sit and visit. Our city next week, we have Jim Edgemond, our city administrator, is going to come and talk about the flooding that we're all experiencing.
City
No, not
engineer.
really.
City engineer.
Pardon me?
City engineer.
Now,
Engineer, city engineer. I had engineer written down. There you go. And then we have Members Community Credit Union coming and talking about the Random Acts of Kindness program that they do out into the community each month. Reminder, the Sound the Alarm event is going on. If you need a smoke alarm in your home, please go to www.soundthealarm.org and sign up to have them come to your home and install smoke alarms. We want to make sure that every home in Muscatine has working smoke alarms. When you sign up, they'll come that May 3rd or 4th to your home. 3 people will come from Red Cross and our local fire department, and they're volunteers. 1 person will scope out your house and decide how many smoke alarms you should have for your square footage and strategically where they should be placed, while another one installs them, while the other one helps you and your family work out a safety plan to exit the building safely. These are good smoke alarms with 10-year batteries, so please, it takes you about 3 minutes to just go online, www.soundthealarm.org. They will contact you and set up a time. Takes half hour for them to come to your home. Really good program. But I just want to add, if you miss that and don't get it done and don't have smoke alarms at your home, please just call our local fire department. We want to make sure that everybody has the safety equipment that they need, and they will see to it that your family gets those smoke alarms installed. Santos already reminded everybody about Spring Cleanup Week. Please pay attention. There are different weeks this year for electronics and tires. And reminder, there's no city council next week, and that is all we have for you tonight. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
Well, we were all wrong.